Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Lucy Bourne. She is the director at Oaka Studio, which is a boutique consultancy specializing in supporting Microsoft partners. Welcome, Lucy.
Hi, Archie. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, Lucy has been phenomenal to work with, and I get filled with energy every time we speak. But before we dive into that, would you like to kick things off by explaining to whoever's listening, what do the team at Oaka Studio do?
Sure. Well, as you said in your intro, we are a really niche little space. So we support partners that work with Microsoft, specifically those that specialize in their business applications technology, which is Microsoft Dynamics and the Power Platform. So they're kind of CRM, ERP, low-code technology. And we support those partners in three areas. We help them build a stronger relationship with Microsoft, both from a programmatic perspective, getting them the right badges, the right designations, specializations, but also from a kind of relationship standpoint. So we'll help them understand who at the organization is going to be really driven by the services they provide or the IP or products that they provide.
Mhm.
And then we support them building a strong sales and go to market approach, help them with building value propositions, sales strategies, marketing capabilities, pre-sales approaches, and finally we strengthen their delivery team. So the people that are actually implementing the technology, building the capability for their customers, will make sure that they've got a sustainable path for growth, because hopefully we'll have made them a bit of a problem in that space by building their pipeline and supporting their growth with Microsoft. So that's
Fantastic.
us.
Fantastic. I love it. And as I mentioned before, you're quite a woman on a mission, with so much going on there, which is really, really exciting. And so when we first got in touch, I think one of our team members would have reached out on LinkedIn to you, and you mentioned that you were struggling to keep track of all of the tasks you had going on in the business. Obviously, you mentioned there's quite a few there, and you were looking for some sort of support to help yourself out. Would you mind sharing a little bit about what that like actually was in terms of the issues that you were dealing with at the time?
Sure. Yeah. Your message from Emily was incredibly well timed because I was really deep in like a whole selection of things on my to-do list. And openly, I had tried to onboard an exec assistant in the past. I had done the classic thing, which was reach into my network and say, hey, I'm looking for someone to support me in these kinds of activities. And I was referred to someone locally in the UK. And, bluntly, Archie, it was 6 months in, it wasn't particularly working. There was errors, there was mistakes a go-go. There was tons of stuff not quite right.
Right.
And I was quite reflective. I thought, okay, well, this must be something I'm doing. Like there's absolutely something that I need to learn here in order to make this work for me. So I was referred by my partner to a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell,
Hmm.
read through that, and it emphasized my need to actually really build systems around what it is that we do and processes and have a really solid understanding of what I do, detail it, and therefore be in a stronger position to hand some of that capability off to someone else. And it
Hmm.
was at that point that I got your message from Emily, and I thought, brilliant. Okay, yes, absolutely prepared to engage with this. And one of the things I really liked at that point was that, you know, you had a really strong focus on personality types. I think one of the areas where I struggled in the past was I was actually too similar to the person I was working with. Our traits were incredibly similar, and therefore what I found difficult, this person also found difficult, and therefore we just weren't gelling. And
Hmm.
your approach at Shore Link was to assess my personality, ask me quite in-depth questions as to how I function
Hmm.
and what I needed doing. And then you quite eloquently described who it was I needed or what type of personality I needed to work with to be effective. And so when you came to us with the opportunity to work with three potential individuals, it immediately felt like I could have worked with any three of them. Any one of them. They were all great candidates. One did stand out, and we've been fortunate enough to go ahead with her. But your approach to kind of assessing not just what needs doing, but the type of personality that's going to gel with the leaders here at Oka was really quite groundbreaking for us. So yeah, really appreciate that approach.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing that. I really appreciate the feedback. And it sounds like you were obviously juggling so much at the time, and in terms of having somebody in the UK as well, I imagine that's what a lot of the listeners who are in the same boat as you have considered or might have done before. Do you think it was just the personality type that wasn't a gel, or was there something else?
It's a good question. I think it might have been time of life, personality, didn't really know how to hand off the activities. I felt like I needed someone locally. I felt like I needed some boots on the ground. But since engaging with our EA from the Philippines, I can honestly say it makes absolutely no difference where anyone is located. Our exec assistant, Eds, is based in the Philippines. She works for us from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. our time. And it works really, really well. It fits with her life. So she's able to kind of function with her family during the day. And then she gets her head stuck into Oaka capability in her evening. And it makes honestly zero difference to us that she's based thousands of miles away. In fact, if anything, I think she brings a real unique perspective to what we do. She's, bluntly, we've been able to afford a far more senior individual with far more experience out of the Philippines than we could have ever hoped to justify investing in if they were based in the UK. If I'm comparing apples with apples, I simply couldn't have afforded Ed in the UK. And she has brought just the most insane amount of experience. I mean, she's got about 15 degrees, a
MBA.
master's, an MBA. Thank you. I can't even spell MBA. She has it. And, the experience she brings from the organization she's worked with has really helped hone our offering, our capability, our maturity as a business. So, there's no way I could have done that in any other way than the way that you guys proposed to us. So, I'll forever be grateful for that. And it's
Oh,
even meant, practically, I've been pretty much able to drop down to 4 days a week, which gives me a day with my son, helps me buy back more time to focus on, what a 2.5-year-old needs, which is certainly not me sitting at a desk all day, every day. So, yeah, it's been, world changing for us having Ed's engaged.
oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate hearing that. And as I will have mentioned to you probably over 10 times by now, our aim is to make a really positive impact, not just in the companies that we work with, but also within the lives of the team members that we contract out as well, by providing them opportunities to work with amazing international companies just like yours. So it's been a brilliant experience to work with you on that. It sounds like obviously you were juggling so much before we started working together, and the fact that Ed has been able to come in and make sense of everything, and provide that kind of executive assistance that you needed has been brilliant. Just to step back a little bit though, before you obviously decided on moving forward with Ed and getting her set up, could you walk us through how you felt at each step of the process, while you're obviously in communication with us here at Shore Link before we started fully working together?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Archie, I've been a bit of an ambassador for you ever since, a bit of a cheerleader over here at Oka. I think you've really, really, you live your values, which is to have kind of a real systematic approach to engaging with your clients. I've never spoken to anyone else other than you. Now,
Oh,
that's brilliant. I feel like I'm having the kind of red carpet treatment, really. Bar Amelie, sorry, who I first spoke to. And I think, you know, simple things like you remember key facts about my life, you play them back, you care, you text me if you feel like there might be an issue or you want to just check in. That for me is, the kind of customer service that has absolutely exceeded my expectations. I think
oh,
secondly, you've got a really slick process, right? Your offer is really clear, the pricing is really clear, the way to pay is really clear, the way to contract is even clearer. I don't even need to think about it, right? So when I'm like knee deep in a mailbox with 600 unread emails and your process is 3 clicks and I'm done, and now my mailbox is empty because I've got this amazing assistant. I mean, you've really practiced what you preach in that respect. So I thank you for that.
oh no, thank you as well. It's been a pleasure. Now, obviously, not to go down the same track that we've just been on, because you've obviously explained so well the impact that Ed has been able to make and the way that she operates as well. Just to touch on one question that we get asked a lot here at ShoreLink. Well, the quality of our candidates and team members, when you experience working with us, goes without saying. But for somebody that hasn't perhaps worked with an offshore expert in the past, very often we hear concerns from them about the level of spoken English, and rightly so. Now that you've been through our process, what would you say to anyone, or someone that's at the start of this journey and has these concerns?
I don't know if there's anything I can put into words that quite explains how much better Ed's English is than mine. She is so eloquent that I quite often get to my desk in the morning and I see that there's been emails sent as if they are coming from me. And I
Yeah.
think, God, I wish I could write as well as that.
No way.
Yeah, yeah. No, honestly, I maybe I hadn't given it enough thought in advance that the propensity for English might not be good enough.
Hmm.
But and I hear why people might consider that as an issue, but if anything, I think what Eds has done by, the simple process of kind of going through my mailbox, my calendar, the way I engage with my clients and my prospects and my partners, she's almost absorbed the kind of terminology I use and the approach. We've got a fairly like sort of semi-casual tone of voice here at Oka,
Hmm.
and she's adopted that really cleverly. So not only is she kind of already got a really solid foundation of a really cracking, English language, but also she's able to kind of use colloquialisms and terms and phrases that are part of our tone of voice as our brand. So yeah, I would try and do my best to allay anyone that you speak to of their fears of whether the English is quite there. As I say, I mean, the three candidates that we spoke to all had incredible education, on paper, but also when we spoke to them, they presented themselves so well as well.
Hmm.
And in speaking to Eds over the last month that we've been engaged with her, it's interesting to hear about, as in her instance, the Philippine education system, and they all learn English from, the first class. English is very, very much their second language.
Yeah.
So I would argue that their English is equally as good as ours, if not better, and they've got the capability to speak their own language as well. So, you know, I can't say any more than that. She's fantastic and her English is lovely.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's really really well said. Thank you, Lucy. I mean, one more question in terms of now like the actual process and how you got yourself set up for success with this, because obviously we can only do so much in terms of the recruitment process and onboarding process to help ensure success. And I mean, it's fair to say that not every business owner is actually ready for an offshore agent to join their team to help them grow. But clearly you were, and it's paid dividends. So what was it specifically that you did that you set yourself up for such success with this?
That's a good question. I would actually argue, Archie, that people are probably more ready than they think. If they feel like they're not ready, then it's probably their own kind of limited thinking that's leaving them in that place. I think we were coming from a position where an engagement with an EA had failed and we were worried it would happen again, but we simply needed some support, right? So we were coming at it from like a -10 position and we needed to get to zero even before we engaged. So if anyone wasn't ready, it was probably us. Um, but there are some practical things that I would advise. Firstly, be really open with what it is, not only you do, but how you approach what you do. And by being open, I mean, for example, the day before Ed's joined, I wrote an entire long email about the way that our organization works, but not just how our organization works, how our family functions, how our interaction between our family life and our home life functions, how we tend to travel, why, even I even said to the extent that our son goes to nursery on these days and childminder on these days, so I definitely won't start until 9:15 on this day because it takes too long to get there. Kind of, be super open about how you function and reflective, and equally, trusting.
Mm.
From day three, Eds has had access to my entire mailbox, my entire calendar, my legal, accounting, digital signatory software, email marketing software, CRM solution. You cannot get value from your EA unless you give them the full trust in managing your processes for you. What
Hmm.
we didn't have, and what I thought I needed in order to engage an EA, was things like standard operating procedures. I
Mm.
am not the personality type to sit down and write a standard operating procedure. So I was worried that she would be landing expecting that kind of background, where in reality, within a few weeks, she's written them for me and she's improved them and she's added extra interactions with my clients and she's just made them much slicker and she does half of them now anyway. So don't let not having the preparedness of your, you know, journey, your customer journeys, your client journeys, whatever it might be, or even other internal processes, accounting processes, things like that. Don't let the fact you haven't written that down get in the way of taking on an EA, because it's likely, I describe to the rest of the team that Ed's just loves getting her teeth stuck into stuff. So if there's stuff that you're doing regularly that is draining you of energy and isn't allowing you to focus on what it really is you're here to do, just ask her to take a look into it. And you just know that within 24 hours, that stuff will be written down. She'll ask you to review it, make sure she's understood it correctly. Inevitably, she has, and inevitably, it's way deeper than we'd anticipated. And then she'll likely have automated a large chunk of it anyway. So yeah, if you're thinking about it, get stuck in. There's literally nothing really to lose. Your financial investment is minimal in comparison to the value you're going to get out the back of it.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for sharing that in such detail. I really appreciate it. That's actually it for the questions for now. Just to leave it on a note of your choice. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? Just on a finishing note about your experience with Eds and Shore Link?
Oh, good question. You've probably heard enough from me, but I think, yeah, just get started. I think one of the other things I didn't mention, which was a real plus point from a Shore Link perspective over others, was I mentioned there's nothing to lose. You've got like 30-day contract terms. So if stuff really doesn't work, so what? It's 30 days, right? Very, very unlikely. But it's very unlikely that'll be the case. But, really do give it a go. The other thing I sort of wish I'd had time for, but definitely would do if I was hiring again through Shore Link, which I intend to do, is creating a test project to give to the potential candidates. Archie, you gave us that guidance to do that. Dan Martell in his book Buy Back Your Time says, work with people before you work with people. And I was very much too blinkered to kind of like in square wheel mode to even think about what that might look like. But now I've got like thousands of ideas of what a test project might look like with a potential new Shore Link candidate. So I would definitely have a think about what that might look like for your potential new customers.
Fantastic. Yeah, 100%. I really appreciate you touching on that. And funny new term as well, square wheel mode. I'm glad to
Yeah,
say that they've turned to circles again and we're rolling.
totally.
And in terms of the 30-day contracts as well, I mean, it's the reason for that is because we're all about building long-term relationships that are actually going to be effective and successful. And we have no intention in locking in any of our team or clients into any kind of contract that isn't going to work for them, because it won't work for us either. But I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much, Lucy, for sharing that. And hopefully it shed some light in terms of what we're all about for anyone who's considering us. Thanks so much.
Yeah, perfect.
And look forward to
No
catching up.
worries.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Likewise. And just a final offer, I'm happy to speak to anyone if they're thinking about it, because I'm happy to share like in-depth details. So feel free to share my contact details too.
Oh, thank you. Speak soon.